it's funny, I was thinking the other day. So I was in Leeds, and I got back last night on a train, and I went to a Disability Action Society social. So it was a lot of fun. It felt really nice, because these were my people, if you know what I mean. There was my friend who's visually impaired. There's my friend Inga, who has the same chair as me, except hers is red, and her wheels are more tilted, and I always think she looks cooler, but never mind. And it's funny, because what was so nice was that I went straight into the pub, we sat down, we hugged, and it was so wonderful to be able to talk about all the ableism and discrimination I'd faced. And what was so wonderful is that they instantly understood, and we had this connection, even with friends whom you haven't seen for a long time. And I was thinking today how funny it is that often I feel so disconnected with a lot of things, but my job today is try to encourage you to feel connected to activism and to find your role in activism. So I don't feel qualified to talk about this because, I get it, I don't think I need it, but I don't feel qualified to talk about refugees because I'm not a refugee. I've spent time in Calais, and I've spent time working with organisations in the UK and with organisations where we help boats when they cross from Turkey to Greece. We receive the distress calls. But I don't feel I have, I feel that I'll probably learn more from you today, and I hope that we'll grow and we'll learn more together. But I shall try and speak about what I know a little bit about. So I came to know more about the war in Syria from some of my best friends. Many of them were students, actually, and they would tell me that the genocide rumors were true. And this was maybe a few years before the Western media started talking about the reality of the war in Syria. They used to translate the newspapers, Damascus, Aleppo Times, Homs. They used to translate them for me and tell me what they were being told and what propaganda they were being fed. And I remember the night my friend landed in Damascus, one of our dear friends who'd stayed with me for a bit. And when he landed, there was an explosion in Damascus, and 200 people died that night. And we were just shaking on the sofa. We were so afraid. So we carry our dearly loved ones in our hearts all the time, everywhere we go. So every Syrian I meet, every refugee I meet, it's like I'm being reunited with my friends. And ISIS have killed so many of my friends' families. And I'll always carry them in my heart. My friend is okay at the moment, but he's trying to get out because so many of his friends have been murdered by ISIS. I can't talk too much about my friends for their safety, but it gives you a bit of an idea. But I remember the way when I looked into his eyes before he left the house, and the tears, and it was like he was going back to death. And nobody could quite understand in Britain at the time. And I don't think they can now, to be honest. So now everyone in Syria is traumatized. A whole country of people that had to flee. They're attacked by mobs, trying to get to safety, children in camps. There are children in refugee camps across Europe, and their feet are actually rotting from the mud. A whole country with post-traumatic stress disorder. Children with rotted teeth play in Calais. They build walls with Duplo bricks in the mud, and in the puddles they'll put their plastic ships. And they're so clever. They know about the borders. They know about it all. They know more than the average Brit. They know all the borders, it's just phenomenal. They're so young, they're grinning, they're smiling away. They've made this replica of all these walls. I sat with a volunteer. I was in the warehouse in the morning. There was a lot of tear gas in the night, so it was safer to be in the warehouse at the time. And I sat with a volunteer, and he had taken over some firewood. And the elders that had picked up the firewood, they always say, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." And he says, "Please don't thank me. Please, this is not good enough. My country and France have failed you. My country and France are paying for the taxes, and the police are coming and they're beating you up and they're throwing tear gas in your homes. So the volunteer and I, we sit, we have a cup of tea, and he's tearful because he's just seen a little boy, not much older than maybe 10, and the boy has a rock and he's trying to break apart a pallet to use as firewood because he's so cold. This was in January. And my friend goes on to say, I'm so sorry for my country. And he says this to the little boy, and he says this to the elder. The CRS guards, they tear gas the people. And are any of my slides working? Do I need to click it, by the way? Oh, thank you very much. So, do I click that? Okay, so the image isn't very clear, but this boy here has to carry his cousin because his cousin's legs are broken. He says he has no idea where he is going. And this was on the border from Macedonia, I think. And there's no borders here if you want to get involved with volunteering. Sorry, the images are not very clear. And this one up here in cardboard, it says, "We survived the war, but you made me wish I didn't." So the agreement with the police was that people would be able to collect their limited last remaining possessions when the police tried to bulldoze some of the camp, and that people would be moved safely to their new accommodation. Despite the fact there is not adequate accommodation for the refugees, there is also not enough accommodation. The police are literally bulldozing people's houses and giving them an option of a prison or nothing. There were many, many lawyers involved after these demolitions and continue to be because of the inhumane treatment. The police jumped on a 4-month pregnant woman and her husband. They refused to allow people to collect their belongings. They're very limited belongings, basically whatever money they have left, whatever phone they have to call their relatives, any remaining photographs they have of their deceased family, any clothing, blankets. The police just threw tear gas into the houses, and of course people have to eat, so they have gas canisters to cook their food with. The police, knowing this, and the refugees saw their houses go up in flames all along camp. And the fire engines, they sometimes take maybe 2 hours to come. And then, as well as that, you've got children screaming, running around with all this tear gas. You have police in riot gear, water cannons. There are donations, but we need more. This is my friend Shakir. This is his first aid caravan. He's back out there. If you'd like to bring some supplies, I took some bandages and, well, I took a very, very large bag of all sorts of bits, bandages, cough meds, and all sorts. Everything you need for a kit, really. We took over clothes, and I have more clothes, so I'll take them over. So if you're interested in coming with me, let me know afterwards. And I made this film. This is the warehouse. So you can look at the film, but it doesn't look very clear on there. But let me know afterwards, or I can give you the links at the end as well. That's me doing maintenance on the wheelchairs, because there are people that, through the war and through other reasons they are disabled or have become disabled, but also because of the police brutality. In this film that I've made, there's a box, and it's a box full of crutches. And I say, this intrigues me, a box full of crutches. And they say, yes, sometimes people get injured, but we could also do with a stretcher or two. And this is also because the police brutality is so severe that people become disabled. Also, fascist gangs come into the camp dressed in black, pretending to be police, and they very brutally attack the refugees. So very often, even in normal situations, people are carried out on stretchers. So if you imagine water cannons, tear gas, etc., there's a lot more casualties, including children losing consciousness because of the tear gas. A baby less than 3 weeks old had to be resuscitated in an ambulance. So this is a video on our YouTube page. This is my friend Maya. and me, and we're talking about her experiences volunteering in Macedonia, in the refugee camp there, and what we're doing in the Calais warehouse. This is one of the organizations you can support, Calais. I'm terribly sorry about the slides, but also I really like this graphic, solidarity, and you're stronger together. So I set up the Agape Project, facebook.com/the Agape Project UK, because I felt that the mainstream media was not sharing the reality. And we felt that because there was such high numbers of people being killed, attacked, mobbed, we really need to raise awareness. We really needed to let the world know what was actually happening. At the moment, our numbers are over 500 to 102,000. So on an average week, we get over 500 to over 1,000, 2,000 hits a week, which is good, but we need more help with social media to get the news out to more people. Also, we raise awareness of the horrors of detention centres. In Australia, a dear friend of mine used to go and visit the refugees in the camps, and in a place called Nauru, and there's another one called Villawood. And refugees are kept in the most inhumane conditions. This is a lady from Calais, this is Liz Clegg, and this was her video saying, "Save the Women's and Children's Centre in Calais," which probably also got demolished recently. There's also another meeting place for the theatre, and they have art therapy and things for people to do. This banner under here, it says, "Shut down Yarlswood Detention Centre." Shut down all detention centres. In Yarlswood Detention Centre in particular, the amount of traumatised refugee women being raped and abused by G4S and Serco guards, this is in Bedfordshire in the UK, and there are no convictions or investigations. So when we're addressing activism, why I talk about don't panic, organise, is that unless you get organised and you share the information, you can't get enough people to create an action. An activist alone cannot achieve anything. Only through working in unity as a global body can anything ever be achieved. Sometimes there's, I find that there's even a clique in activism. There's what can you give and what are you useful and what are you good at. And it's frustrating for me often because people don't realize that actually I can propel myself around the camp. I have a terrain wheel on the front. I don't need to be pushed. I can get around the camp. I can get all the way around, and I can do first aid. And I can do other jobs as well, and I have strong arms. I can lift things up. But so often the door is slammed in people's faces because people assume what the person cannot do rather than where the person's gifts are. Of course, I feel sad every time it feels like the door is slammed in my face, or I'm doing an important job and someone comes up to me in a baby voice and goes, "What are you doing?" Thank you so much. But I've been thinking about what I could say to you about it. And I was thinking that maybe your difficulties may not be physical. They may be mental, they may be emotional, they may be making you feel like you have nothing to give. I'm just going to have a swig of Lucozade. We share news about the reality of refugee camps. So maybe you have depression, maybe you're swamped with essays and you feel like you don't know what you can give. Maybe you don't know what you could possibly offer in this situation and you don't know what you could do in such a traumatized atmosphere. But actually, there's so many skills that we all have that can be applied. So maybe you're good on social media. Maybe you're good at sharing the news about what's happening in the world. Maybe you're good at art therapy. Maybe you're good at driving. Maybe you can drive over donations. Maybe you can sort through donations. Maybe you're good at languages, cooking, building, DIY. Join forces. Don't judge what you think of others. That they might be able to do what you cannot do, or they might be able to do more than So yeah, I know each of you in this room and all of you, if you're watching online, if you do not enjoy this talk, please make a cup of tea, change browser. I'm terribly sorry. But if it gives you the opportunity to think about your skills and things that you're passionate about, then great, because that's what we need. We need more enthusiasm, but we can only have that if we feel encouraged, if we feel we have something to give. I've been very lucky with my condition because my pain is quite visual and my struggle is quite visual, so people feel comfortable to talk to me about their pain, and that's a great honor. And it's a responsibility, and you have to build